It's December 2013, and for the first time in 4 years, the Pere Marquette 1225 operated under her own steam. However, it's not just giant steam clouds that are drawing people's attention. It's her voice. Meet Jason, owner of the whistle shop. Jason builds custom whistles, and today he's testing out his replica of Norfolk & Western 611s.
We're here in the shop. We've got one of the original whistles that Norfolk & Western 611 would have wore. It's a Hancock 3 chime, and it's got the real deep steamboaty sound. And then we've got our replica of this whistle, and it has a similar sound depending on the type of pressure and volume and whether it would be air or steam that you're going to operate it on. The funds for us building a replica of this whistle will go towards the Fire Up 611 committee. They have agreed to have this be purchased by us. We'll build the whistle for whatever we need to have as far as the funds for our shop to build the whistle, and then the remaining of what they charge to have it built or have someone give the 611 campaign a donation, that will go towards the rebuild of 611, and it will also get the whistle put on 611, and they'll run it during an operating excursion.
Welcome to Jason's shop in Waterford, Michigan. Today he's welding together a replica of Pere Marquette 1225's whistle. Jason started the whistle shop in 2011 with the help of his girlfriend Lisa. They began work right away and set up a shop in Lisa's backyard. In addition to the whistle shop, Jason has a small railroad museum featuring different railroad signals and signage.
One of the signs and signals I started off with was the fully functional railroad crossing signal. The other signals that I got along the way were the Grand Trunk Western searchlight signal. These were originally new in the 1950s, and they've been recently fading them out and going with a new LED system on the Canadian National Railroad through Michigan here. The other signs I got are cat's eyes railroad crossbuck sign on the pole that you see there next to the pine tree. The round railroad crossing sign was just something that was extra that another railroad had donated to us, and the little 7.5-inch gauge railroad crossing signal that was also given to us for another display. We also have a little switch stand that we had purchased from someone that was in bad need of restoration, and we put a new signal lantern on it. That's a switch lantern, and the area that's out here by the shop come spring is going to have our garden scale model railroad set up on an elevated track.
Another unique feature about the whistle shop is an open air line which allows Jason to test out his replica whistles. Today he's testing out a New York Central 6 chime whistle on top of his shop.
This part's where a lot of the magic actually happens. We got actually 2 air compressors in here where we had to combine the tanks to be able to test whistles on the outside of the shop on top of our roof. That kind of give you an idea of the kind of volume and air pressure that's required for these whistles to be able to operate. This is the 1-inch air line that comes out from the air compressor tank that's on the upper shelf. Earlier you probably heard me mention that the two are combined together to have enough air pressure to test a whistle and to make it sound somewhat like it would be on a train. We have the ball valve that actually releases the air into the whistle, and we do that really fast. It's kind of like pulling the cord of a real whistle inside of a steam engine. The gate valve here is to allow us to reduce the flow into that whistle if we have a smaller whistle we want to test. And we can show you what the actual 6-chime whistle sounds like on top of our shop. That drains the whole entire thing.
Join me on the dark side.
Always loved trains. I remember back in the 80s, the early to mid 80s, when the old GT red and blue engines were the only things that ran the road. Time went on, I went through different model railroad clubs, tried that for a little bit. Always thought of doing something on a little bigger scale, but then kind of left the hobby for a while and pursued my career in 3 or 4 different fields. One happened to be machining and welding, where I did work for a short time at a machine shop over in Plainwell, Michigan. The owner, Tom Darby, I still remember him. He taught me and took me under his wing. They basically started in a small machine shop, just kind of like I am here. The 2-car garage behind one of his friend's house that was a silent partner. And it grew today to be a very large industrial building over in the industrial park in Plainwell. And I worked there for about 4.5 years, and I still wasn't quite sure at that time what I wanted to do for a career. So I moved on and did some other stuff.
The other stuff that Jason tried included starting his own construction business. However, thieves stole about $9,000 worth of his equipment, and instead of staying in the hole, Jason decided to use the funds that he had left to start the whistle shop.
This is the front area of the shop where we do most of our steel cutting and our cutting saw and chop saw. And if we have bigger pieces that we've got to lift, we've got an overhead gantry here with a chain hoist that can lift stuff so we don't have to strain our backs to do so. With one of the projects we are looking at getting finished here, hopefully this coming year, where we've got a wall to finish and rearrange some of the workbenches in here and get some other equipment to help us do some other varieties of work. I've got the wood burner that helps keep the shop warm. It does a pretty good job once it gets up to temperature, and you can sustain about 60 degrees out here even when it's -5 outside. Some of the whistles that I build, you can see we got the top lever valve whistle, the Baldwin 3-chime, a little 2 1/4 inch scale model for a 3rd scale model tractor engine, Grand Trunk Western 6-chime, one of our custom 4 1/2 inch 3-chimes, the replica whistle, Nathan 6-chime that would have been on the 1225.
In addition to building whistles, Jason also builds custom wooden signs. These are several examples of wooden signs that he's made for the whistle shop. Here's an interesting wooden semaphore which he made entirely out of wood and plastic.
Some of the signs that we make here are replicated signs that the railroad would have used. We've done like the railroad crossbucks. I've done things like semaphore signals. A lot of people have a hard time finding the blades for a semaphore signal, and sometimes you can just find the blades and not the bodies. Well, we've, with blueprints and patterns, been able to recreate signs like that as well. Granted, they're not the old cast iron, but if someone was looking for something original in size, just for a display piece, we can do that. Some non-cast iron work that can be done are some of the concrete whistle post and mile marker posts that I can also do here at the shop that are relatively easy for most people that have the time to do so, but that's another thing that we offer here in our preservation of railroad history. Other stuff that we can build here at the shop, well, for example, this time of year people are cold, they want to stay warm. We can build wood burners wood stoves and fireplace inserts. The beauty of having a plasma cutter here at the shop allows me to cut through steel and make different patterns and out of sheet metal. We can do lathe machining, some basic lathe machine work from either tubular steel or solid steel. We work with some aluminum, some brass. Brass comes in particular when we're working with the valve systems and the whistles that we build. I've done a couple wrought iron gates for some people here over the summer, welded frames for their gates, and cedar clad wood. We do that kind of stuff here too. I've done trailer repairs. I've had many customers come here from construction businesses that either do lawn care or they have a dump trailer, they're hauling waste. Those things are always getting torn up and they need repaired. Heavy equipment repairs. I have the ability to make new parts for smaller front end loaders, bobcats, tractors. I've done tractor parts, John Deere tractors, Alice Chalmers. Basically, it's hard to really describe some of the stuff I can do here. And a lot of it has to do with welding and the plasma cutter. And with having a 4,000 square foot warehouse full of steel product within a 15-minute driving distance of the shop makes it a world of difference. I have the availability to pick out basically anything I want for a particular application.
So the next time you have a welding or fabrication need, call the Whistle Shop at 248-599-9118.